Hi. 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 Oh wait, no, I forgot to turn my tracking on. Oh no. Hi. How is everyone doing? It's been a little while. It's been. Oh no! Why is there software updates on my tracker? Oh, why? Okay, so we're having a bit of a scuffed start, but that's fine. It's just business as usual, really, isn't it? I should get some tattoos. Tattoos scare me. They would probably suit me, let's be honest. It's hot, guys. And you know, hot temperatures are fatal to goth girls. So, if you're hot, we're hot. Take us inside. Hi, Silver. Hi, why am I here, Tiger? Hi, Callus. Hi, Logan. Hi, Trafimus. Hi, Falling Upwards. And thank you for the subscription, Dabs. Oh, no, I wouldn't get tribal. I feel like I'd have to get something a bit more personal. Like, if I'm gonna mark my body with something personal permanently, I think I'd have to, like, put a lot of thought into it. I've no intention of getting tattoos. Come on. Update. Stupid. Oh, wait, what? Oh, no. iPhone. Come on. What is this? Am I going to be a VTuber without a model today? Is that what's going to happen? You tried taking a goth girl inside when it was warm. It didn't end well. The cops are called. What? What did you do, Logan? Why did they call the cops on you? What could they have possibly done? Oh, come on. Look at this bullshit. Come on, iPhone. Ugh. So anyway, how have you all been? I had a fantastic holiday. I got to lift nuns. I fought some dragons. It was a great time lopping. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. It was a fun time. A really fun weekend. I got to do some politics, which is new considering I play a peasant knight. Evie, why are you meowing? You're literally right here. I'm right here. Do you want my attention? Gatto. Gatto. Come. Gatto. No, no, not on the water. There you go. I'll consume the liquid. Come on. God, this is it's gonna go really slow. No, I started Hi Metal! No, I started out as a peasant and then I became a knight because I was fucking awesome. That's how. I have a full suit of armor. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've posted it before in Discord and on Twitter. Yes. Since I got back, I was sick because Pink was here and Pink was sick while I was on holiday and I didn't know. So I came back and got infected by a horrible illness without realizing it. So I've been out of action for like a week, which has been interesting. So I've basically been sat on a couch, not really able to do anything. So I've just been sitting like a zombie building Warhammer for ages. So I've gone and like I've gone and like built a bunch of Warhammer and I've been doing some test paints on my Horus Heresy stuff. Cat, you are such a needy bean. No, I knew she was sick, but it's not like I could go anywhere else, lol. It is my flat that she was staying at. She's gone back home now to the other side of the country to hang out with friends and family for a bit. She'll be back later, though. Yeah. How have you guys been? But it's so hot. I can't put it into words. Like, I know I'm British, so we don't handle the heat very well, but it's so hot. Like, so we're gonna have a very comfy, lazy stream. Come on, iPhone. It's fine. I can keep us entertained. Look, there's a cat. You can't possibly be bored when there's a cat being very needy and affectionate. Yeah. Even mixed slightly. That's all you're gonna say? That's fair. I hope that things become good. Summer sucks, I agree. Give winter, please. Give winter and being cuddly and cozy and comfy and getting to wrap up warm or go out and enjoy the chill. None of this inescapable, humid heat nonsense that we have on this little island. It's not cool. Do you guys want to see some of the stuff I've been making? So, you remember how I said, like, I let chat vote for what I would do with my next Warhammer project? We voted to do the Dark Angels Legion for Horus Heresy. So, Dark Angels have a bunch of really cool and unique models that usually cost a lot of money. But basically, I've been working on kit bashing the parts together to basically use bits from other sets to make the models without having to spend a fortune on Forge World stuff. Because Forge World stuff is all resin and incredibly expensive. So I got Age of Darkness finally, which is like the big set with everything on it. What is that? Is that your... You've got the other cat's fluff on your whiskers. How are you so... I need to give you a brush at some point. Probably before bed. Catgirl, can you please come on my lap? I want to show the Warhammer. So, I'm playing Bolt Gun on Wednesday. I've never played Bolt Gun before. The last time I played Doom, I had a brief look at 2006, and I wasn't very good at it. Or was it 2016? 2016. Cat be like, I am the Emperor now. All cats are like that. iPhone, can you please, like, finish your loading bar instead of restarting from the beginning? Yeah. Other than that, the last Doom I played was on a floppy disk, so my experience with that kind of game is very limited, and I was an actual single-digit child when I played that floppy disk game, so... Hey, you'll remember floppy disks? How many people here actually had their hands on a floppy disk when they were a child? Is it just me? Am I an old bitch? I know I am, but, like, I'm not that old. Surely someone in chat. Thank you for telling me I've updated my software. Can you... You just get off my lap to come back on it. No, I'm not petting you. You're in the way. Come on. Yes, I know my iPhone has been updated. Can you, like, hurry up and let me... Can you, like... Oh, Jesus Christ. iPhone. Yeah. Hi, falling upwards. I'm tracking again. Yes. We live. We live. Cat. For real though. Can you like move? Slide the metal back and let the floppy fly. Yes. Yes. God, you're not supposed to do that though. Fucking loved floppy disks back in the day. As a child, you just play with them though. Destroy so many floppy disks. God, you remember being in school and actually needing a floppy disk because the USB drives hadn't been invented yet? Like... Yeah, these are my test miniatures that I was... Oh, you can't even see them. Well, I'm a dummy. So I was doing the test scheme on some Primaris heavy intercessors. A big chunky boys. Yeah, they are... Ah. Big chunky boys. So they're in First Legion colours. Please focus. There we go. There we go. That's what I was doing literally right before the stream. Can you get back into focus, Biz? But like, yeah, these are just like rough kind of speed paints. I'm almost done. I have to say, painting Space Marines is a lot easier than painting Sisters of Battle. So much easier. Oh yeah, no, all the floppy disks are probably dead. What else have I been making? I've been making some kit bashes for stuff, which no one in the world is going to have an army like mine. They're all going to be unique models made from like spare parts. Can you please focus? Please? This? I know. Focus. Help if I like knew where I was aiming. Wow. Yeah. I'm really happy. And cat's got cat hair everywhere. This is the problem with having a hobby like Warhammer and having cats, is that you have to clean fucking cat hair off of all of your models. There was a 40k Civ like. You mean Gladius? Gladius is great. I've only played like the tutorial level of it, but it seems like my kind of thing. It's a lot more combat focused than Civ, though. I do enjoy Civ though. This I'm very happy with how these kit bashes have turned out. I've got a whole bunch, but we will see those in the painting streams. Well, some of them in the painting streams. I'm doing quite a fair bit off stream because, like, let's be honest. As I learned with the Sisters of Battle, there's only so many times you can paint a single color scheme before it starts to get a bit boring to watch. At least I feel like it's a bit boring to watch. I'm very glad I'm going to be doing some Dark Angels. Yes. Okay. I think it's time we can resume. So, the story so far. Well, we met some new characters. Baylor, who's traveling with the 10,000 Eyes and is Knight Captain Seraphax's lieutenant second in command, finally met with Zabriel of the Fallen. And both the Lion and Zabriel were lucky enough to recruit a bunch of new Fallen, including an apothecary and a tech priest. Well, I say Fallen, Horus Heresy era Dark Angels. I'm very excited to see where they all end up at the end of this. So, we got all the way up to chapter 27, and I believe there are 6 chapters left, including the epilogue. So, without further ado, the last where we last left our protagonists off, Zabriel and Lionel Johnson received a distress signal. So let me show off the book a bit. I love this book. It's such a cool book. Such a cool book. But yes. The Lion, Son of the Forest, chapter 27. Kamarth burns. Most of the largest continent is on fire. Vegetation is aflame. The remaining fuel dumps have gone up. And even natural gas is blazing as it spews up through fissures opened in the land by bombardment. The 10,000 Eyes took Kamarth with a certain level of efficiency the first time, wiping out the main military strongpoints and executing the leadership. It was a conquest, almost a compliance operation from the days of the Great Crusade. This, the Lion knows better. This is much more akin to the extermination operations the First Legion engaged in, although not as comprehensive. Seraphax, and he has no doubt that it was Seraphax, had no interest in completely obliterating the planet's life. He left enough of it untouched that the survivors of his wrath can huddle together and weep and wonder why their saviour, Lionel Johnson, abandoned them. The feeling of and the rage it provokes are like twin spectres that lurk in the Lion's shoulders. He tries not to think about whether Caliban looked like this before the end. Kamarth still has no astropaths. It was the Lion's relief ships that he sent from Avalos which broadcast the distress call that brought him here. The 10,000 eyes are long gone, of course, leaving nothing behind them but a damaged, burning world. Or almost nothing. Sensor focus, here, the Lion orders, highlighting an area on the tactical hololith. His voice is clipped and focused, but there is no one around him in any doubt about the tight fury contained within it. The bridge crew of the Glory of Terror move with the quick, slightly nervous efficiency of people who are not scared of that anger being directed at them as such, but definitely do not want to cause any delay in it being directed at those responsible. My Lord Lion, the Vox officer calls. Incoming transmission from Lord Zabriel on the Pax Fortitudinus, making its way in system. The Lion taps a control rune, and a new display flashes up. Zabriel is there, and with him there are 3 other faces that could only belong to the Legionis Astartes. Lion blinks in surprise. Zabriel, I see your trip was even more fruitful than we hoped. This is Lanciel and Galad, who have assumed command of the defences of the moon of Gamma 2 in the Trevenum system, Zabriel says, gesturing to a giant in cataphracti plate, and the tactical marine beside him. And this is Beverdan, my Lord Lion, Lanciel says, in a deep voice as smooth as butter. I had not expected to see this day. Galad smiles, as though the sight of the lion has brought him a certain amount of peace. However, Beverdan, the left arm of whose armour ends not with a hand, but with an ugly plug of ceramite that was surely not fashioned by any tech marine, has a shadowed expression. There is an internal conflict there. The lion can tell that much immediately. I am glad to see all of you, he says. However, a more detailed reintroduction will have to wait. Zabriel, have you seen what has befallen Kamarth? I have, Zabriel acknowledges, grim-faced. Space Marines are not sentimental beings, but the lion can imagine Zabriel's grief and rage at seeing the world on which he fought so hard to defend people being consumed by flames. Then I would like you to direct your attention here, the lion says, transmitting the coordinates of the area he has just identified for a sensor focus. It appears to be an island of untouched land amidst the flames, although the choking clouds of smoke billowing across make it difficult for the instruments to get a proper reading. That is Red Moon Keep, is it not? It is not easy to determine with so much of the surrounding land on fire, Zabriel says, and I only saw it from the ground level, never from orbit, but yes, my lord, I think it is. I do not believe in coincidence, even when dealing with the followers of chaos, the lion says. I consider it very unlikely that this location, a former Space Marine fortress, and the place where I first attacked the 10,000 eyes, has been left by accident. I suspect there is something there for me to find. He absent-mindedly rubs the hilt of fealty, feeling the indentations of the wings against his fingertips. He does not like to think of what further atrocities could have been visited on the place where his brother's sons once lived. They have set half the planet on fire, Zabriel says, his voice tight. What more message do you think they have for you? I do not know, the lion admits. But this is a demonstration of power as much as it is anything else. It is intended to intimidate, or at the very least, tell us our enemies that are not intimidated by us. No. I feel that Red Moon Keep will hold something more personal to me. Some communication from a son to his father. You intend to make planetfall? Zabriel asks. The lion nods. I do. Then we will come with you, Zabriel says firmly. It is neither a request nor an offer, but the lion is not minded to refuse him in any case. I will welcome your company, and that of your brothers who wish to join us. I am well aware that I am not invulnerable, and the environment will be too hostile for baseline mortal troops. He breaks the communication and turns to exit the bridge. Make a shuttle ready. 2 members of the Lion Guard fall in behind him as soon as he walks through the blast doors to the main area of the ship. They are both tight-lipped and grim-faced, but the Lion can sense no judgment from them for the fate that has overcome their world, no resentment or malice for taking them from it, or being too late to protect it. If that is true, then they are kinder to him than he is to himself. Still, perhaps, the mortals have the right of it. There is only one party at fault here, and it is the one which chose to rain destruction down on this world from orbit in order to take a petty revenge on an enemy who was not even here at the time. Ectorial, he says into his vox, have you been able to complete the repairs to my armor? Yes, my lord, Ancient Techmoon replies. He approached the suit with a quiet awe bordering on reverence when he first saw it, and wasted no time in expressing to the Lion exactly how fine a piece of craftsmanship it was. All the same, ceramite was ceramite, and Ectorail set about repairing the damage dealt to it by the Terminators of the 10,000 Eyes. His workspace had been granted at a sufferance to the tech priests of the Glory of Terror, and lacked the dedicated tools of a Legion armory. But the Lion could tell that Ectorail was relishing even this freedom. He sees it amongst his other sons too. Zabriel watched his own back for so long that he had almost become twitchy. But that is fading, although there is a certain keen alertness above and beyond that of a space marine, which the Lion doubts will ever go away completely. Afkar and Lahok are so used to keeping a low profile that they instinctively stay in corners and shadows, and lack the usual forthrightedness of space marines, even with mortals. But that is starting to change. Even Kai's brashness now feels less like a performance to overcompensate for a similar timidity, and more like a natural part of his own personality. Although the Lion is not certain he counts that as a positive change as such. Boars clearly achieved and kept his position through ruthlessness, and while that is hardly a poor character trait for a space marine, the Lion thinks he can sense a certain relief from the one-eyed warrior now. Bors is a natural leader, perhaps, but not a natural general. He feels more at ease within a command structure where he has orders to follow. He's slowly coming back to that mindset, and bringing his flotilla with him. The Lion is hardly in the process of forging a new legion out of these few warriors, but he is hopeful that they are beginning to remember what it feels like to belong to a brotherhood. He has no idea how far he can go in terms of protecting the galaxy, or what other forces will eventually flock to his banner. Ideally, word will spread, slow though that will be, even the limits on both warp travel and astropathic communication, and he will be joined by the modern Space Marine chapters. Perhaps he can do more than help a few isolated star systems. However, in the meantime, he has to rely on these few sons of his. He recognizes that there is a certain irony in that, given that not so long ago, at least by his experience of time, he considered them all traitors. Nonetheless, they are his sons. He does not believe that all grudges have been buried. But he understands that decades or centuries had largely ground down the jagged edges of spite to leave only weariness. They are all adrift in a time not their own, and looking for purpose in lives which had once been laid out for them. And there is something shared in that. Besides, the Lion does not trust unreservedly. He never has. This is a second chance for them all, himself included. And while the Lion is not necessarily expecting betrayal, he will be watching for it, and should he find it, he will have no mercy. The Corona-class lander is an old vessel, a model that the Lion is almost surprised still flies. But then, he has become accustomed to the fact that the Imperium has not progressed since his day. Indeed, in many matters, it has positively regressed. Although he keeps such thoughts to himself. However, this shuttle was present in the bays of the Glory of Terror, and it was functional, and it suited his needs. The air is thick with ash, Ectorail mutters. If too much builds up in the engine intakes, Techmarine has one hand splayed against the wall as though he's monitoring the shuttle's spirit like it were the breathing of a wounded animal. Perhaps he is. Do not worry, old friend, Lamore says with a chuckle. If we start to fall from the sky, I'm sure I can carry you to safety. He slaps the harness of his jump pack for emphasis. You will be heavy with all that extra weight, says Brennan, one of Bors's warriors, looking at Ectorail's servo arms. He too is a former assault marine with a jump pack of his own. You will need help. Lamore bristles and nods towards Bors. Will you not be helping your own, pirate? Not likely, Bors calls from the other side. He knows who the more valuable out of the two of us is. A ripple of laughter passes through the corona, mainly from those who had not been part of Echo Station, but Bors's self-deprecating humour seems to thaw that tension, even if only slightly. The Lion did wonder about the wisdom of putting all of his sons together like this, after so long apart, and when at least two of the factions within them had been in opposition at times. But he decided to trust them. They do not have to follow him, after all. If they do, he expects them to bury old arguments. Status? He says into his Vox. Altitude 4,000 feet and descending, the servitor pilot replies from the cockpit. No enemy fire detected. The Lion can see their escort of half a dozen lightning fighters flanking them, but none of them have taken hits either. Whatever is waiting for them at Red Moon Keep, it appears that it is not merely a lure to shoot them out of the sky. 3,000 feet and descending, the Krona is starting to shake now, buffeted by the massive thermal updrafts from the enormous fires below. Visibility is decreasing as the smoke thickens, and what can be seen begins to waver in a heat haze. The Lion waits, expecting each new jarring tilt or pitch to herald the impact of a weapon, but the descent continues uninterrupted. 1,000 feet. Be ready, the Lion tells his sons. He places his helm on his head and checks the readouts. His armor is as good as new, according to the display's structural integrity and power feed. And he is grateful once more for Ectorail's work. He intends to be more than just a figurehead to whatever remains of humanity, but he is well aware that humans will cling on to images, and it is difficult to look like an awe-inspiring protector without armor that fits. 500 feet. Landing sequence initiated. The Lion's audio receptors pick up a faint grinding noise as the Corona's landing gear extends. The lightnings pull away and start to circle. If anyone wishes to rid the galaxy of Lionel Johnson, and those of his sons who have pledged themselves to him once more, now is the time for them to make their move. The Corona settles onto its landing skids. They are down. The Lion does not need to issue any orders. Kai already has activated the door release, and the lander's access ramp door drops to reveal a scene that might have come straight from the hells of old Earth. The Lion remembers these forests, lush and verdant and packed with life. They were dangerous places, filled with plants that would strangle and poison, and animals that hunted with rending claws and lethal venom sacs, but there was a certain savage beauty to them nonetheless. Now they burn, greedy flames consuming the trunks and leaves, leaving nothing but black char and floating ash so thick it looks like swarms of insects carried it upwards on the breeze. From this vantage point, where the Lion and his sons have landed on the road that leads up the slope of Mount Santic, they're surrounded by a ring of fire. However, a wide area of land has been cleared around the mountain's base to prevent the flames from spreading to it. A fire break, presumably cut in by those who committed this monumental act of arson. To the fortress, the Lion orders, and stay alert. I suspect our enemy intends me to remain alive at least for long enough to encounter whatever he has left for me, but there is no guarantee that he will not consider you expendable. He has set half the planet on fire just to wound me. I doubt he will think twice about killing his brothers to achieve the same result. They are a mismatched group of 21, and many of whom have not seen each other for centuries before this day, if indeed they ever knew each other at all. but they still settle into a formation without needing an exchange of words. Brennan and Lamore take point, making short hops ahead of their jump packs. The lion comes behind them, flanked by Zabriel on one side, both pistols drawn and tracking. Lahok, the red whisper on his other, his plasma gun charged and ready, while Kai walks directly behind them. Boar's One Eye and his three pirates, Perziel and Rufarel, with their bolters, and Cadaran with a flamer, are on the left flank, while Gawain, along with Kuziel's melter gun, and the bolters from Elian and Meriant, also formerly of Echo Station, take the right. In the middle walk the three specialists, Ectorael, the tech marine, Asbiel, the apothecary, and Bevadan, formerly of the Librarius, who is yet to meet the lion's eye. Bringing up the rear are Launceal and Galad, along with Afkar, and the final member of Echo Station's Space Marines, Danadal, who bears an ancient Sol Militaris pattern heavy bolter over his right shoulder. They are a formidable force indeed, but the lion is still wary. He knows only too well how the forces of chaos can twist reality so that strength becomes weakness, and bravery becomes foolishness. A turn in the road brings them within sight of the ruins of Red Moon Keep. There is little left of it that one could call a building, since the lion and Zabriel destroyed it with the detonation of its power cores. There are a few semi-intact walls poking up here and there like damaged teeth in diseased gums, but the fortress is mostly rubble. Most of the gates still stand, however, and in front of them is a lone figure. Lord? Bruenon asks. Both he and Lamore are perhaps unconsciously cycling up the outposts on their jetpacks, ready to launch themselves into the air. The lion focuses on the figure. His helm obliges by magnifying the image. The nature of it is immediately clear. Heretic, Zabriel says from alongside him, having come to the same conclusion. Advance cautiously, the lion orders. He is obviously here for a reason. And if that reason is to speak with me, I will do so. Anything our enemy says can be useful, even if it is lies. That is no dark angel, Lahok rasps, nor ever was. I hope you are correct, the lion says. The half-machine monster the Primarch fought here were grotesquely swollen and distorted. But although this space marine is a giant like them, its proportions are normal, and one hand rests on a tall-handled axe with a pale blade. However, the uneasiness that gnaws at the lion's belly eases as they approach closer. The traitor's armor is green, but not the dark forest green the lion hears that his modern sons now wear. It is an iridescent shade that shifts and glitters in the uneven light from the surrounding flames, and whatever the local star manages to get through the billowing, smoky atmosphere, there is no familiar iconography or markings, even corrupted or altered. Whoever this warrior is, he was never a dark angel, and the lion breathes a little more easier for that. He has no doubt that the day will come when he sees one of his sons so corrupted, but he is glad that it is not this day. Name yourself, the lion shouts. He is glad to see his escort recovering their surroundings rather than focusing on the mysterious figure. The lion can see no other sign of life, even within the ruined fortress or among the trees which line the road. But he does not trust that this is the case. I am Markog, commander of the Dolorous Guard, the heretic says. His voice is surprisingly melodious, with the faintest thrill of strange harmonics that the ear only just registers, and then wonders if it has done so. I am bodyguard to Seraphax, Lord Sorcerer of the 10,000 Eyes. Is he here? The lion demands. No. Then you are in the wrong place, bodyguard, and you are wasting my time, the lion declares. He raises the armor luminous. Although it would be a long shot to hit Markog at this range, if you have a message for me, then speak it. But be warned, I have little patience for games. Lord Seraphax wishes to become reacquainted with you, his gene sire, Markog pronounces, as the lion continues to advance. I've been ordered to tell you where you can find him, and should you wish to discuss, he pauses, gestures around him, the current situation of Kamarth, or indeed anything else. You have interfered in my lord's designs, and he would like to explain them to you in more detail to prevent further misunderstandings. This one is markedly too polite for a chaos worshipper who has burned a planet, Kai comments from behind the lion. How observant, Afkar replies, sarcasm dripping from his voice. I suddenly get the feeling we should not trust him. They are closer now, close enough that the lion is confident the plasma weaponry he holds can burn Markog's head from his shoulders. Do as you have been bid, and have done, he orders the traitor. You might enjoy the sound of your own voice, but I do not. I have a condition, Markog says. He reaches up and removes his helmet, the mouth grill of which seems to be grinning obscenely, even though it is only metal, to reveal his face. A growl rises involuntarily from the lion's chest at what is revealed. Markog still looks human, or at least transhuman, but there is nothing about the features revealed that sits quite rightly. His eyes are too large, with pupils too swollen that they only leave the faintest rim of colour at the edge of the iris. His cheekbones are so sharp they look like they could cut flesh. His chin is too long, his mouth and nostrils too wide. When he smiles, he reveals pointed teeth of gleaming white, with an overlong tongue lurking behind them that stirs impatiently. His skin is pearlescent in its sheen, not dissimilar to the iridescence of his armour. Everything about his face suggests it is changing to maximize the sensory stimulus to his brain, intensifying what he witnesses and experiences. He sighs as he rolls his eyes as the lion's growl reaches his ears, as though he were an epicure delighting in sampling a new delicacy from a distant world. But when he focuses again, there is a little hunger in his gaze. Ah, the distaste of your legion has a tang all of its own, fermented and rotted by all your years in the darkness, Markog says. Baylor is more like the rest of you than he knows. You weary me, the lion tells him, and I have no patience for any condition you may set. Give me your message, or I will strike you down and hunt your master myself. But that is my condition, Markog replies eagerly. You must strike me, and then take my blow in return. Only then I will reveal my master's location to you, flawed knight. He licks his lips with his long tongue in anticipation, opening narrow wounds on the organ as he drags it along his sharp teeth. The lion frowns. What did you call me? The warp knows you as the flawed knight. Also my master informs me, Markog says, a touch of impatience entering his tone. Come, Emperor's son. I yearn to feel the kiss of your blade. The lion aches to strike him down, but the thought of giving this heretic what he claims to want is an anathema to him. Nonetheless, nor is he prepared to let Markog live another second. Zabriel, the lion says, and gestures. No further instruction is needed. The former destroyer steps forward and brings his blade around in an arc that catches the grinning Markog just under his jawbone. Whatever happened to the traitor's skin to make it glisten in the light appears to have done nothing to harden it. The chainsword rips through into the meat of his neck, then judders through that and out to the other side. Markog's head comes away in a shower of flecks of torn meat and drops to the ground. Zabriel steps back, waiting for the giant space marine's body to catch up with events and fall. It does not. Instead, it begins to move downwards. It does so in a graceful, kneeling motion, bracing itself on the hand still holding the haft of his large, pale-bladed axe. Markog's free hand reaches out and plucks his own severed head off the floor, then holds it out at Zabriel's eye level, eyes still wide and moving, and mouth still smiling. Markog's lips and tongue form words without sound. Then the traitor takes a step back and simply disappears. The sudden departure of a potential threat is almost more unnerving than the arrival of one. Weapons which had been ready to snap up to cover the suddenly empty spot where Markog had been standing, and power weapons are activated with a hum and the pop of immediately ionized air. The lion fires the armor luminous. The superpowered energy bolt vaporizes part of the gate without striking anything else first. Markog is gone. Cutting the head off doesn't work, Kai says, apparently to himself. Something to remember. Maybe not, Zabriel says, turning to face the lion. But at least we know where they are. Or where they say they are. Where? I heard no words. Nor I, Lohok agrees. Zabriel's face is hidden by his helm, but he sounds even more uneasy at that revelation than he did after he had beheaded a warrior without killing him. He said that Seraphax is on the world of Sable, and Markog said he would be waiting for me there to give me the blow that was my due. End chapter 27. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, 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 hi everyone. Hi Small, hi Pink. How are we doing? Oh, you want me to have a drink? Wait. Where's my redeems? Hi Tim, thank you for the raid. Hi Gator. I will consume the liquid. I will consume. It's very hot. I don't like it. It's hot. Hi Raz. It's okay. You don't have to apologize for being late. Mats, why are you being so noisy? What do you want? You've climbed the power tower. Are you just showing off the fact that you can climb? Is that what you want, cats? No? They've left the room now. Hi, Aeon. We just finished chapter 27. Today might be the final reading session, but we've got every single video, every single chapter is actually timestamped on our VODs on our YouTube channel. So if you're a bit further earlier in the book, or if you've not seen any of it, if you go to my YouTube channel at TigerVT, no, actually no, it's just at Tiger. It's the one thing that's not the same as everything else. You can do the whole, you can watch the whole, you can listen to the whole reading without having to pay for it. Because, you know, this book is fancy as fuck. And I felt like, you know, it's such a well-written book. Every time I finish a session, I want to keep going. It's such a good book. It feels like it belongs in a museum. It looks like it belongs in a museum. Like, this book is such a good reintroduction to the series. Yes, I got the limited edition copy. God, it sold out in the first, like, 2 minutes. I wanted to get the limited edition Leviathan, but the queuing system... I was waiting in there for an hour before it even opened, and it was sold out because I didn't get... I was queuing for 2 hours waiting to get in I didn't even want the box. I just wanted the book. I didn't want Leviathan. I mean, I do want Leviathan, but I can't justify spending £150 on a box set where I only want half the models and the books and the pre-order. Okay, there's a lot of stuff I want in the box. But there's a lot of stuff in there. I don't want Tyranids, basically. And I don't know anyone that wants to go halves on it with me. So, I can't get that. I know that Pink could probably do with the Space Marines in that box, though, to round up her army and her white scars. But yeah, I will drop my... in fact, you know what? I will do a link to the playlist itself. Where is the playlist? if you would like to watch from the beginning, that playlist has every single thing, every single chapter, from chapter 1 all the way up to chapter 26, which is where we ended last time. If you go into the description on each video, you can just click to the timestamp for the chapter you want, and you can skip all the bits of faffing around in between, like what we're doing now, where I'm chatting with chat and all that, and you can just do the book itself from start to finish. Oh well, it will be finished when this one goes up. I will try and get this video, this VOD, online tomorrow. I think I'm going to make reading the new Warhammer stuff a very regular thing. Partly because it does really, really well for me. And secondly, but also because, like, I'm really enjoying it. Like, Warhammer Fiction has gotten so much better. Like, I loved Gaunt's Ghosts as a kid. But Warhammer Fiction has just gone to this whole new level, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. That and, like, I'm really enjoying the setting. Like, I enjoy the fiction a lot more as an adult than I did as a kid. I think it's because I can appreciate the themes of it a bit more. It's not exactly kid content, is it? But yeah, especially liking the Dark Angels, because they are my childhood army. And they're really fun to kit bash, like lots of cool like units for. Really, really. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Shall we continue? Coffee. Can't see. I'm gonna come bug me. No. I'm gonna go sit in the window. Good. Your first bits of Warhammer literature, apart from the source books, was Cyphus Cain, Hero. I've not read Cyphus Cain. I've heard really cool things about the Cyphus Cain books, though. Apparently, there's this commissar he flirts with a lot, and it's apparently their banter is meant to be top tier. For me, I used to read a lot of the Warhammer Fantasy stuff when I was a kid. I really liked the Warhammer Fantasy series, like Gotrek Gurnison and Felix, Gotrek and Felix. That was really cool stuff. And then there were some more standalone books. I can't remember what the author's name. I loved the comics they did in Warhammer Monthly and Inferno magazine. They had this they had Blood Quest and Darkblade and Demonifuge. Absolute classic stories there. God, I need to reread Blood Quest. Blood Quest is probably one of my favorite series. It follows Cyphers K has sort of tainted your view of 40k as being less grimdark. Well, you see, this is the problem with 40k, I think, in general, is that people think, oh, it's all grimdark, but no, it can't. It's not just grimdark. Like, if you read the Gaunt's Ghosts element, there is joy and sorrow and, well, less grimdark. Well, yes. Like, everything Dan Abnett's writes, the more human elements of Warhammer 40,000 is so rich and vivid. Like, I also grew up on the Gaunt's Ghosts series. First and Only was, I think, my very first book. I think Necropolis was the last book I read. I think I was like 12, 13. I'm only really just getting back into Warhammer the past 6 months, and it's been such a nice journey after a 20-year hiatus. Yes, everyone should read Gaunt's Ghosts and the Eisenhorn books. Those are absolute must-reads. Hi, Zira. Zira, thank you so much for the 11 months. Yes. Yes. Oh, that reminds me. I need to update Throne because I need to delete some of the things that are on there because I don't need them anymore. We will resume the book reading shortly. I promise. I promise. Go away, Throne adverts. I don't care about these. I don't need Age of Darkness anymore. I don't need that. And I don't actually want that. That's just gonna go. I don't need that anymore. Don't need that anymore. I don't need that anymore. Definitely don't need that. Usually when I'm building a Warhammer shopping list, it's just like, oh, what can I get? What can I get? And usually, and now, finally, I'm at a point where it's just like, I don't need stuff because there's a whole new edition, and I've been working hard on getting stuff so I can kit bash the stuff I promised I would, make some really cool things. I've got my Knights Cenobium. I've got my Deathwing companions. I've got my 40k stuff. I'm really excited for the new edition. I know, almost 1 year. 11 months. We'll get there next year, won't we? I mean, next month, won't we? I don't actually want that. I think I might slightly be giving up on collecting Sisters of Battle, mostly because they're such a pain to paint. Maybe I just need a break from them. These Space Marines are going to be a nice palette cleanser. Yeah, that's what they feel like. You attempted to buy the Blade Guard Captain Lieutenant from the Indomitus box. You see, what I like to do is I like to just kit bash my own things, because then no one's going to have models like mine. And that's part of the hobby, isn't it? Is like making things unique and your own. Ah. She knocked over my wet palette, but it's fine. There was nothing in there. I'm really happy with this one, actually. I feel like it's a really cool pose. Like, the Legion Praetor / Captain is gesturing to go forward and all that stuff. I like this model. It's one of my favorite models I've kit bashed. On Friday, we're going to be making Marbus, the Demon Prince of the Fallen, which is going to be really cool. A whole squad of these guys now. Oh, I made a Horus Heresy Librarian. I think is really cool. It's going to be interesting painting the sword, because I've never had to paint, like, magic, fire, and plasma stuff. Yeah, no, builds, kind of. I kit bash. So I basically get an idea for something. I have a look at what parts I have. And then I cut things up and glue them together and use bits of green stuff to make, like, all the unique stuff. Because you can go to Forge World and buy, you can buy nice models from Forge World, or you can make them yourself for, like, less than half the price. Because, like, let's be honest. There's absolutely no reason why you should... No, I didn't nick off Guilliman. What I did was I liked the Grey Knight. So when the Grey Knight boarding patrol came out, I grabbed that. And it's Castellan Crow's sword. Can you imagine a Primarch sword on a firstborn librarian? Like, this is Lionel Johnson. It would be about the size of his sword, and it's just like, no, there's no size comparison. No, this is Castellan Crow's demon sword, but I trimmed off some of the demony stuff, and I put some more Dark Angel stuff on it to make it look a bit less, well, like a demon sword. I was very lucky when I got this book and the lion on that day. I logged in 10 minutes early, and the lion, and it was all on sale before it had even, the pre-order had gone live, so I just snagged it. I snagged it then and there, and then I spent like 20 minutes on like checkout crashes, because it just was not having a good time, because lots of people were trying to get on to buy stuff, which I get. I got very lucky. But yeah, everything I do. I also prefer the Grey Knight Terminators for their helmets. Like, I think it looks a lot nicer on regular Terminators than the bulldog face that normal Indomitus patterns do. I really like these. I really like the things I kit bash. They look very unique. Yeah. These have Tyrannic Greatswords and Plasma Casters, which are a unique Horus Heresy weapon. I really hope I get to use these Terminators in 40k, but I don't know. I guess I could use them as relic Terminators with, like, power weapons and just combi weapons. That's probably what I'll run them as. You want to do a fully squadded Marine company for 40k? Any extra? See, what I'm doing right now for 40k is I want to have because I've got the lion as my guy. My plan is to do like the Redeemed Fallen as my main army. And I got Wrath of the Soulforge King, so I've got some Chaos guys. So I'll probably do, and I've got some bits. I'm gonna turn and make a Demon Prince based on out of the Manticore from Age of Sigmar. So my plan is to do Marbus, the Demon Prince of the Fallen, which is the only Dark Angel that's ever become a Demon Prince. That's gonna be Friday's stream. Is doing that kit bash. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna like, because I haven't planned this at all. So I'm gonna be like trying to figure out how it's gonna work. And hoping it doesn't go horribly wrong. But who knows? Who knows? I'm very excited. I'm very excited. It's going to be a very fun project, I think. So that's my plan. Just before stream, I finished this paint test for my Horus Heresy guys using a Primaris guy. I just like the heavy intercessors. Gravis armor looks chunky and feels like, yeah. You intend to mix Firstborn and Primaris? Yeah, that's my plan. Use some Despoilers as Assault Marines, my Deathwing Companions as Vanguard Veterans, Tactical Marines as Tactical Marines, obviously, and I'll just throw in the Dreadwing Intremptors as special weapons guys with plasma guns. Evie. You didn't get that toy as a prize. I saw you pick it up and move it 3 inches. And you want attention for that. Like, you've brought me some kind of, like, prize. You're such a silly cat. What do you want? What are you doing, cat? Fun. No, she's fucking off. After, if you want attention, you come here. You come here. Yes. It's just black on black right now. Oh yes, a bunch of stuff is going. A bunch of stuff is going to Legends. See, this is why I'm glad I found that out before I started building Age of Darkness. So I'm going to build my Contemptor Dread. I was originally planning on getting all the different parts for the Contemptor Dreadnought and magnetizing it all. It's like a living void blob, yes. Black on black. He is a living void blob. I'm sorry, cat, but it's hot here and you're really warm. Can you please go away? It's a, you know, I love my cats, but like, when it's a hot day and they decide to just plant themselves in your lap and it's like they're warm and you're warm, it's just like, do I really want this? Do I really want this in my life? Sorry, I know you already redeemed the bean. I will send you the bean. Is me. Yeah. All of the does. Where is the other one? I think Haru's gone to have a nap. That sounds like the kind of thing she's done. She got lots of attention when I was painting because she demanded it. No, Pink's gone home, Zira. Pink's gone back to the other side of the country. I know you're a needy creature. But I don't put your paw on my face. But I need like get on with my life. Do you understand it? Do you understand? No, there's not a fucking thought behind those eyes, is there? Not a single one. You are just a silly little being. Okay, have you had enough? I'd really like to not have to clean cat hair off my very fancy book. I'd really appreciate that, cat. Genuinely, for real, for real. No cap. Okay. Yeah. She is a. I mean, the book is actually already covered in cat fur, I'm not gonna lie. So, you know, if I ever sell this thing at some point in the future, you get to have, whoever gets it gets to have cat hair. Yay. Yay. Okay. What do you want, cat? You're such a needy little attention whore. Okay, for real, I am actually trying to stream, cat. I love you. Yeah, she is a loud purrer. Oh. Let me read my book. Let me read my book. I promise, usually between chapters it doesn't I don't get derailed this much. It's just one of those days apparently. Okay. I'm gonna have a sip. And we're gonna continue. Oh, right. I have fixed my spine and I have stretched and I have done all of the things, Raz. Oh wait, is it because I'm not clearing them from my screen? Come on, let me read my book. Oh. God, there's so much fur on this book now. Thank you, Raz. Good mod team. Yes. Okay. Okay. You gonna sit there and be good? You gonna stop trying to interrupt the stream? You gonna let me read my book? Oh, you can't. Are you? What the fuck is that, Raz? You can... This is what she does. She puts her head in my hand to demand pats. Or she fucking headbutts my tit. Because, like... Stop knocking over my Warhammer! Yeah. Get picked. Okay. I have escaped. I have escaped the cat. She will find her way back here in like 5 minutes, I imagine. But for now... God, there's so much fucking cat fur on this book. Oh my god. Oh, it's... Okay. Okay. Oh, why am I like this? Oh, why? It's not supposed to be this way. Okay. The Lion, Son of the Forest, Chapter 28. Practice does not come naturally to a Primarch, simply because everything else does. Lionel Johnson has sometimes wondered what it would be like to be human. Actually baseline human. He presumes that there is more to it than being a frail sack of watery meat for whom the galaxy seems to offer little more than an uncounted number of ways in which to die. The greatest of humans might manage, with considerable effort, to come close to a Primarch's competence in some matters. At least, one in which the Primarch in question has no particular interest. Most humans will never even achieve this. They are lesser beings, by any definition that makes rational sense. The Lion does not see any problem with this view. Humanity evolved naturally, and evolution requires only that genes are passed on successfully. Some of humanity's biology is redundant. In some individuals, biology fails catastrophically, but evolution does not care. If the genes are passed on, then it was good enough. And if they are not, then it was a dead end. Humanity as a whole is trial and error, on a massive scale, whereas the lion was one of a handful of genetically crafted beings, designed from the ground up. Whatever else the Emperor may or may not have been, he was an incredibly gifted geneticist, scientist, and military commander. It is unsurprising his hand-created sons are so far beyond baseline humanity that they might, in more superstitious times, have been taken as gods. It does not reflect any underlying value, simply differing levels of ability. However, when everything comes so naturally, if naturally is the correct word, given such an artificial genesis, the notion of having to practice is something almost utterly alien. Practice is for mortals. Even Space Marines have to drill and train to learn their combat skills and ensure they do not degrade. The only purpose practice has ever served the Lion been to enhance his abilities from very good to superlative. To find something that he has not mastered before he has even tried it is infuriating. Clear your mind and try again, Zabriel advises. He is seated cross-legged opposite the Lion, dressed in a hooded robe. Clearing my mind is near impossibility, the Lion growls. He opens one eye and glowers at his son, who looks outwardly serene. You truly find this easy? I did not at first, Zabriel admits. It took some time to master. Why did you persist? Zabriel's cheek twitches. I was alone in the galaxy, hunted, and without allies and without purpose. Fear might not have found me, but desperation has its own claws. There were times that my continued existence seemed pointless. Meditation helped me shed those feelings, or at least examine them dispassionately. I see. The Lion purses his lips. I'm glad, Zabriel, that you did not succumb to them. As am I, my lord, or I would not have seen your return. Zabriel shakes his head slightly. But this discussion is not helping us address the matter at hand. You are certain you wish to continue? I am, the Lion replies. I may not fully understand this gift that I have been granted, but it is a foolish commander who does not use the assets he has available when his forces are otherwise outmatched. He closes his eyes and begins again, noting and discarding the sounds and sensations around him, then focusing on the rhythm of his own breathing. Zabriel matches his breaths to those of his Primarchs, to minimize distractions. The Lion visualizes the forest once more. Not the forests of Caliban, exactly as he remembers them, but the strange world into which he has previously slipped, which is like Caliban, yet echoes of every other forest he has ever seen. Nor does he shut Zabriel out of his awareness, but holds his son's presence close. He has until they reach Sable. The Pax Fortitudinus slips out of the warp, with not much more than a notable judder, and brief flares of unnatural colours at the edges of its passenger's vision. It is an uncommonly easy transition, especially in these times, and the Lion wishes that he did not suspect it might have something to do with the sorcerer who waits them easing their passage for his own ends. Seraphax. Knight Captain Seraphax, as he was. The Lion remembers him, although not in any great detail. He was a good commander and a good warrior. Now he has apparently become a sorcerer and a warlord in this cursed far future. Seraphax's choices were his own to make, and the Lion knows he should not self-flagellate over decisions made by another, but he cannot help wonder how much misery has been unleashed on the galaxy by his lost sons, and how much of that might have been avoided. Report, he orders, pushing the other thoughts from his mind, at least for now. The ship's crew obeys, feeding back information and analysis with a clip precision that belies the tension the Lion can smell on in the air. It was his decision to come in one small ship, This Cobra-class destroyer, rather than bring what passes for his war fleet, his reasoning is simple. Even though the surviving ships of Avalis have been bolstered by those of the nearby systems with which contact can be made, it is far from an armada to match the reported strength of the 10,000 eyes. The Lion has no intention of leading them into a trap in which Seraphax could snuff out their naval strength in one engagement. The invitation was to the Lion, and so the Lion has answered. He has to trust that Seraphax has a purpose, one which goes beyond a simple military engagement. Whether his arrival in such a small ship is greeted with amusement, scorn, pity, or any other emotions is inconsequential to him. All he intends to do is spring the trap and turn it upon its maker. If he is wrong, however, he intends to limit the number of those who will die with him. The Lion pieces together the information he receives as the Pack Fortitudinous makes its way inwards from the system's Mandeville point. The star is a red giant, bloated and swollen as it approaches the end of its cosmic life cycle. Although it will burn for millions of years before it gutters out and fades into a white dwarf, Sable would have once been a dark, icy outer world, far from its parent's light, but now it is bright and warm and overrun. There are voices on the Vox, the officer reports, pulling her headset off and setting it down with a shudder. Unnatural ones. Forgive me, my lord, but... The Lion waves her apology away before it had fully formed. I know the foulness our enemies can spew, and I would not have it corrupting your mind. Beverdan, my Lord Lion, Beverdan replies, stepping forward, and the Vox officer stands aside and surrenders her console to him. The Lion asked Beverdan to be ready to undertake this role, since he has experience of mental discipline thanks to wielding his Psychana powers. And the one-handed Space Marine acceded without complaint. Sabriel told the Lion of what Beverdan said on Trevenum Gamma 2. And Beverdan presumably knows this, but the Lion has not broached the subject. He is content to judge his son on his actions, not his history, and if Beverdan wishes to make a confession to him, then he will do so in his own time. Long-range scans suggest a significant defensive capability, the Auspex officer reports, not without a hint of nervousness in his voice. It is understandable. He knows that should it come to a fight, then the Pax Fortitudinous is as good as dead, and the farther away they get from the Mandeville point, the less likely they are to be able to escape. The tactical hololith flickers to life. At this range, the sensors are unable to make out the full detail of what may be waiting for them. But the blobs in orbit around Sable suggest a significant number of warships. However, one return is different. What is this? The Lion asks, highlighting it. He has to wait for an answer as the Auspex slowly processes the information available into a cohesive response. All that while, the Pax Fortitudinous moves further and further inwards from the Mandeville point, a shell of metal, barely a mile long, heading for the stronghold of a Chaos Warband. Finally, the Auspex officer has an answer. Readouts suggest a low-density octagonal structure, detecting high levels of calcium? Bones, Zabriel says flatly. He points to the information. Drone of terror. That thing's bigger than this ship. The bones of the planet's population, Kai says. The Lion looks at him, and he shrugs. That is my guess, at any rate. These heretics do like their grand, horrific statements. The Lion bares his teeth. His own legion made use of grim iconography, but such a foul ossuary is an offence to all dignity, and it sickens him to think that one of his own sons might have been responsible for it. However, he has learned that little that this enemy does is without purpose, no matter how twisted or incoherent it may seem. Is it in geostationary orbit? He asks. Yes, my lord. He taps control glyphs, and the answers he seeks flash up. And situated over the governor's palace, seems likely that the location of some import to Seraphax, and therefore will probably be our destination. Let us find out, Beverdan. Are we ready to transmit? Yes, my lord, Beverdan reports. The lion waits until the rune goes green, then speaks. This is Lionel Johnson, Seraphax, my son. You invited me here, and I have come. It burns the lion to be so civil to a monster who has turned a planet's population into an orbiting ornament. But he has ever kept his true thoughts hidden, and his voice remains level. He has no illusions that Seraphax's intentions are genuine, and more than his own are, but they will each play this game of pretend until one of them feels he is in a position to strike. Your messenger boy said you wished to explain your designs to me. I am here, and I am listening. He ends the transmission, and the Pax Fortitudinus waits once more. Then Beverdan signals that he is getting a response, and the signal comes through. My gene sire, how remarkable it is to hear your voice once more, Seraphax says. He has a richly melodious tone, and it triggers some of the lion's memories. A brief exchange about a world brought into compliance, Seraphax laughing as he sparred with one of his company in the dueling cages. A concise report of losses taken in a boarding action against an orc vessel. Minor things and unremarkable moments. Snapshots from a life the lion could have belonged to 1,000 other Dark Angels. I must admit, I am surprised that you came to me with only one vessel, Seraphax continues. I am taking this as a gesture of trust, and I am willing to extend the same. Your ship will not be fired upon or boarded, so long as you make no hostile moves. I have included the coordinates for where your shuttles can make landing. If you wish to conduct this conversation in a more immediate fashion. Bastard almost sounds convincing, Kai observes as the message ends. But then he always did have a glib tongue on him. The governor's palace, Zabriel says, pointing the coordinates that have flashed up. You are right, my lord. Assuming that he intends to let us make planetform at all rather than destroying us in transit. That would appear to be his seat of power. The lion smiles tightly. It is good to have one's suspicions confirmed. He extinguishes the hololith and turns to the cocoon, which houses Captain Montserrat. Captain, please instruct the shuttle to be ready to launch as we discussed. Of course, my Lord Lion. The lion takes a step forward towards the bridge doors, then pauses. And Captain, once our deception is discovered, please launch a torpedo volley at that construction of bone before you make yourself scarce. My lord, Montserrat says, her electronic voice taking on a tone of grim satisfaction. It will be my pleasure. Hi, Scott. Hi. End chapter 28. How are we doing? How are we doing? Raz, I hope you have a nice food. Okay, I have caffeinated. There is the other cat, though. Hi, Haru. Hi. Haru. 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 No, I messed the page up. Oh. Okay, it's fine. That was a very short chapter. We're fine. We're fine. We're fine. I am already the bean butcher of destiny. It is I, the bean. The bean is love. The bean is life. but the bean cannot ever be your wife. Why am I like this? I cannot become more bean. I am already bean. Okay. Zara's regular praise donation. Okay. Thank you for being a wonderful member of our community, Zara. Thank you for helping us with modding and being a lovely and active member of our community. Thank you for all the support over almost a whole year now. I really appreciate that you always choose to take your time here and spend it here with our streams. And I'm very grateful that you're a part of this community. Thank you for being such a very good girl. Yeah. 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 Okay. Can I make another bean? No. I don't think I can. No. I cannot. Can I be Inception? I know how to be Inception. Okay. This is a customizable model and it looks a bit weird. But be Inception! Yes. We can, in fact, multi-beam. Yes. Yeah. The only thing better than the bean is 2 beans. Yes. Yes. All of the beans. Beans for days. Right. I should probably continue on with the next chapter. Actually, I want more Beckers. Have Becker. Finished my coffee. So now we have. Okay. Okay. It is time. It is time. It is time. The Lion, Son of the Forest. Chapter 29. Baelor stalked the halls of the ridiculously named Palace of Glory on Sable, dissatisfaction and unease growing within him in equal measure. He barely responded to the various salutes and obeisances and other acknowledgments of his rank made by the warriors of the 10,000 Eyes, whom he passed. In part, this was born of his own displeasure. Seraphax had decided to surround himself with a battalion of the Broken Horn, a warband of beastmen led by the odious King Magrad, massive abhuman, even bigger than most space marines. Despite Baelor's words to Zabriel about not judging Seraphax by those that followed him, he found beastmen a distasteful reminder of how easily humanity's genetic code could be mutated. The grunting brutes were everywhere, bleating worship of their gods and stinking of their foul musk. He turned a corner and came into an atrium, which had at one point been decorated by the governors to show the planet's proud history. Now the tapestries and paintings had been torn down to build the blazing fire that sat in the middle of the floor, blackening the tiles on which it stood. The hololithic art projectors had been smashed and cast aside. The walls were covered with the beastman's scrolls instead, angular splashes of blood and filth which spoke of primitive bestiality, yet also somehow hinted at an innate understanding of the workings of the ruinous powers. The space had become a herd pit, a place for the warband to sleep and eat and indulge in whatever passed for the finer points of their society. A lot of them were indeed sleeping, huddled up together in a mass of horns, heads, mismatched furs, and cloven hooves. Others were seeing to their weapons. Even now, Baylor found it strange to see these animalistic features creased in concentration as human-like hands loaded ammunition into an autogun or dismantled and cleaned out a firing mechanism. However, a large group were in a loose circle around two individuals, and judging by their roars and hoots and hollers, a fight was taking place. Baylor heard the impact of knuckles on flesh, and then the crowd parted as one of the combatants staggered out, bleeding from several small wounds. The Beastman, apparently knocked woozy by the most recent punch thrown by his opponent, a white-furred individual still within the circle, and breathing heavily as though trying to muster the energy to pursue his foe, stumbled into Baylor. Baylor would have simply shoved him away in disgust, and left them to their amusement had the Beastman in question, his mind inflamed by violence, not turned out and lashed out at whatever it had just collided with. Baylor caught the creature's wrist without effort, and reached out with his other hand and clamped around the Beastman's throat. Its eyes widened in alarm and fear, and he considered throttling it, but found that the prospect gave him no enjoyment. He made a fist, and the bones of the mutant's neck gave way beneath his ceramite-encased fingers with a soft snap. Baylor opened his hand again and let the Beastman fall to the floor. The shouting and yammering had stopped as soon as his presence had been noticed, and it did not start again. Crowds slunk backwards, away from him, heads lowered cautiously and eyes fixed on him to both watch for an attack or be ready to obey his orders. He considered saying something, but what would he say? He had no need or desire to apologize for his temper, but nor did he wish to issue a warning or chastisement. They were beasts. They were acting according to their nature. That nature had annoyed him. And so the culprit had died. That was the way of things in the 10,000 Eyes. Baylor flexed his fingers once, and growled in the back of his throat, and stalked off. Also, thank you, Jet Dragon, for the 10 months. Yeah. The governors of Sable had not been ones for subtlety or modesty. The centre of the court was a throne room, in truth. The governor's seat in question raised high on the dais, from where they had overlooked the lesser beings over whom they ruled. The floor around the room's edges was a wide terrace on which the courtiers and officials had gathered, clustered together in groups of rank or function, as dictated by the differently coloured tiles. In the middle was a hexagonal pit, where as Baylor understood it, petitioners and criminals had stood to receive their respective judgments. Baylor found it bleakly amusing that the governor's bones were now mingled with those of his subjects in the Ostella, as Seraphax called it, that orbited above them, given that the throne room was as eloquent an example as any of how humans could come to see themselves as utterly and unquestionably superior to those whom they were essentially the same, when viewed from the perspective of a centuries-old transhuman warrior. Now, of course, things looked different, but those were not the haphazard vandalistic alterations made by the Broken Horn. Seraphax had prepared for his ritual with characteristic thoroughness, from the ritual pyres positioned at the corners of the sigil, of the eightfold path in the pit, to the glyphs daubed in triple distilled blood on selected floor tiles. The giant mirror of polished silver, shaped from a piece of one of the demon engine towers of Zinch, that hung over the throne, Balor remembered the battle in which that particular trophy had been claimed. Some of the 10,000 eyes had been fearful of angering the changer of ways by despoiling one of the god's instruments in such a manner. But Seraphax had argued that Zinch would be appeased since the metal in question was destined for one of the grandest schemes the galaxy had ever seen. As it turned out, it was going to be even grander than Seraphax had envisaged at the time, thanks to the re-emergence of the Lord of the First. Ah, Balor. Seraphax greeted him, looking around. He appeared much the same as he always had, apart from the chains of dark iron which now crisscrossed over his chest. Markog lurked behind the sorcerer like a giant green shadow, and his expression was notably less pleased. Balor ignored him. Markog's head was firmly reattached to his body now after his encounter with the lion's fallen, but his recovery was less impressive when, as Balor did, you knew his secret. Seraphax sniffed. You have the scent of death on you, my friend. More so than usual? Balor asked. He had kept a kill counter active on his helmet's display back when a green initiate on the First Legion, and ever been proud of himself as the tally rose and rose. He abandoned that practice when the numbers became meaningless. Well before he even first laid eyes on the lion, let alone the long years doing his knight captain's bidding. Since they had escaped from the warp storm, he was not sure how Seraphax could sense any individual death when set against the mountain of lives he had taken over the centuries. A fresh one, Seraphax said. He sniffed again. And catalyzed by irritation? Not often that you kill for such a reason, brother. What vexes you? To deny Seraphax's assertion was to do a disservice to his commander's power of perception, and to hide behind a non-answer was to refuse to give insight which had been requested. Balor sighed. The lion vexes me. This entire situation vexes me. Markog's eyes lit up, and his hand tightened on the haft of Heart Drinker at the notion of someone might be insulting his lord, and therefore required punishment, especially since that someone was Balor. However, Seraphax merely nodded. It is a difficult thing, to be sure. We seek to bring down the being whose genetic code made us what we are today, and through him strike at the heart of what we once served. It is easy to be overwhelmed or fall into doubt. It is not that, Balor said, shaking his head, or at least not that directly. He has come with one ship, and a Cobra-class destroyer at that. Where is his fleet? Surely you cannot think he intends to take you at your word. It matters little, Seraphax said, smiling reassuringly. Perhaps he does indeed wish to offer me a chance at redemption, as he sees it, and will approach us peacefully. Perhaps he has ascertained that I need him alive, and seeks to use that to get close to me before betraying me. It is inconsequential. His escort will be killed, and his transport destroyed as soon as he sets down. Seraphax placed one hand on the chains hanging over his breastplate, and even a Primarch can be bound with the correct tools. Balor grimaced. I still do not like it, Knight Captain. This is the lion. The lion. You know as well as I that he is uncompromising, grim, and merciless, perhaps the greatest of the Emperor's generals. If he had come at the head of a war fleet, then I would be happier. This feels like he is walking too meekly into your trap, and I do not trust it. The Broken Horn are numerous, but they are not Astartes. If we had the Arch-Raptor and his warriors, or Gitans possessed, then... The Unshriven commands the ships, Seraphax cut himself off, and Urians has his own instructions to follow elsewhere. The Broken Horn are more than a match for any mortal allies the Lion might bring, and we have the Dolorous Guard. Balor glanced at Markog. All the same. Well, the bones are cast now, Seraphax said with a shrug, while behind his back Markog's eyes flashed at Balor's doubt of his warrior's capabilities. No great venture can be undertaken without risk. and by setting ourselves against a Primarch, we are certainly engaging in risk. It is possible that we all may die today, as our gene sire stuns us with some unforeseen tactic, or a surprise dredged up from the dark age of technology. He smiles again, the visible half of his mouth quirking upwards. So be it. I have worked too long and too hard to abandon my dream when the key to it is within my reach. He walked over to Baelor and reached up to cup his cheek. The ceramite of his gauntlet was cool against Baelor's flesh. We have the ability to reshape the galaxy, Serafax said softly. And we are so close. The Lion has one grand purpose left. Whether he chooses to see it or not, and if we can help him achieve it, then everything we have done, everything, will be worthwhile. But I cannot do this without you, Baelor. I need your certainty. Baelor laughed despite himself. Look at you. You wield power I cannot comprehend, and you strike bargains with beings I cannot name. I'm little different to how I was back on Caliban. You have surpassed me by so much that I scarcely know where to begin in counting the differences. Nonsense, Serafax said, dropping his hand. I may have changed, but that is why I need you. You keep me grounded, Baelor, else I would have lost myself to the gods long ago and become nothing more than their puppet. Instead, I am still myself, with my own thoughts. He shook his head, flames flickering, then leant forward and planted a kiss on Baelor's forehead. You are the only one on whom I can totally rely. For a moment, Baelor saw the look of fury on Markog's face before it was replaced by the giant's more usual expression of sensuous hunger. For a wonder, the commander of the Dolorous Guard's anger did not seem to have been directed at Baelor, but rather Serafax himself. Something stirred uneasily in Baelor's gut, and he took a step back from his captain, ready to reach for his bolter if Markog lashed out. In the distance, something exploded. Baelor whirled towards the noise, snapping his bolter up and opening a vox channel at the same time. What was that? Nothing answered him apart from the muffled noises, which even the superlative hearing could not pass into much that made sense. And he cursed silently at the broken horn. Beastmen might be stronger, faster, and more resilient, and more ferocious than most normal mortal troops. But at least your average cultist or militia deserter knew how to speak into a warp-damned vox unit. However, there was a sound that he could easily identify. Bolters, he reported tensely. We have bolter fire somewhere in the palace. He altered the vox settings. And Shriven, has there been any shuttle launched from the Cobra? There was nothing but the hiss of static for a few seconds until Gaetana's voice replied, as unpleasant to the ear as ever. No, the destroyer is still some distance from orbit. Any teleport flare? You are aware that the palace is covered by a teleport jammer. Of course I'm aware, Baelor shouted. I oversaw its deployment, but we have hostiles firing bolt gun within the palace perimeter. Has there been a bastard teleport flare? No, there's not, the apostle replied, and even he sounded discomfited. Wait. The Cobra has opened fire, a full volley of torpedoes. It has broken off its approach and is fleeing. What's the torpedo's target? Serafax interjected. Initial triangulation suggests the Ostella, Lord Sorcerer. Shoot the ordnance down, Serafax ordered, and get some ships in their path, just in case you fail to do so. The Cobra is a secondary consideration. The Ostella is to be protected even if you are to take the strike yourself. Am I understood? Of course, Lord Serafax. Now, Serafax snarled, summoning his skull-tipped staff to his hand through the warp with a flex of his fingers. We have intruders. I do not know how they got here, but it is of little consequence. Let us go and see exactly whom my GSI has brought with him to die. Green armoured forms of the Dolorous Guard began to converge, forming up around them as they left the throne room, but Baelor's misgivings were not eased by their presence. Somehow the Lion had outflanked them, and Baelor knew only too well that when the Lion outflanked the enemy, that enemy was usually doomed. Hi, Demi. Yes, there is a cat. There is a cat. Hi, Mom. She is on my chair, right behind me. You cannot see her. Gato. Gato. I have a gato. The other gato. How are you doing, Demi? Oh, I'm sorry you need the tiger vibes. It is a horror. No, Haru, come back. Haru. Haru. You know what's weird about my cats? Is that they seem to go out of their way to not knock things over. Haru. Like, they always step around things. She is the floof. Haru. Yes. Sit on my lap. How this works, Kato. Know that this is how this works. Oh. Me. Me. Purring was audible. Yeah. You do a purr. You look like you want to come back on my lap. Don't give me that look like you want cuddles after you just fucked off. That's not how this works, cat. No. Big strap. It's hot. I don't like this. I want it to be winter already. I told you she was gonna come back. She doesn't know what she wants, this cat. Okay. Are we good to continue? Do we want to continue? Is it okay with you, cat, if we continue? No, you're gonna... Does any catto know what they want? Not really. Sometimes. I mean, they know what they want when they're hungry. They definitely know what they want when they're hungry, but that's about it. The only time cats know what they want is when there's food and when food is, like, on the table. Haru. Are you gonna come chill on my lap while I read the book, or are you gonna just keep being awkward? There you go. There you go. The Lion, Son of the Forest. Chapter 30. I cannot truly say which was more disconcerting. The first time I travelled through the forest with the lion, when we stumbled into it by accident on Kamarth and emerged in the fruit grove on Avalos, or the attack on Sable, when my brothers and I assembled in the cargo hold of the Pax Fortitudinus, closed our eyes at his bidding, and opened them again to find ourselves surrounded by mist and trees. The others had been told what to expect, and the stoicism of our bloodline counts for a lot. But I still caught the twitching of helms as warriors looked about them in shock, and heard the startled whispers hissing through the voxnet. I think as much as anything else, what unnerved them was the change in our gene-sire. Travelling from place to place by means largely unknown to us was hardly a new concept for Space Marines who had voyaged through the warp on many occasions. However, the lion had never possessed the sorcerous gifts of Magnus, or even the prophetic vision of noble Sanguinius, or the twisted monster Kurz. And it was hard to imagine being more grounded in the material of the universe than Lionel Johnson. And so sooner had my brothers come to terms with that fact that the Lord of the First had returned and was considerably altered by age, than they had to confront the strange abilities he now possessed, and which even he did not fully understand. However, in one aspect, at least the lion had not changed. He could see a tactical advantage. He would take it. Seraphax might expect any number of tricks from his Primarch, but this was very unlikely to be one of them, we hoped. Our journey through that mysterious forest was shorter than my previous one, for which I was grateful. The surroundings themselves were not too disturbing, other than the unnatural manner in which we had arrived there, but I remembered the howling from my first trip, and had no desire to meet whatever made it. The flesh and blood enemies that awaited us on Sable were one thing, even taking into account the foul sorcery and inhuman allies upon which they might be able to call. However, Caliban's forests had been deadly enough in the material universe. I did not fancy our chances against whatever might be lurking in this echo of it, which had to be warp adjacent in at least some manner. Even with our greater numbers, it seemed that our presence was too brief to come to the attention of anything that might be stalking beneath the branches of the Mirror Caliban. We followed the lion through the damp, muffled world of mist and tree trunks until we came to a place where the trees were spaced a little more uniformly, and their branches started further from the ground, leaving tall expanses and bare bark all around us. "We are here," the lion said. He drew his weapons and activated the power field around Fealty. The Emperor may not still live in any sense of the word. The Imperium as we know it may be dead. The cause we served long ago may no longer exist. If so, now is the time that we find our own purpose. If anything in this galaxy is said to matter, perhaps it is how we choose to act when the old constraints laid on us are gone, and we are free to choose our own path. You have all chosen to stand with me, to do whatever is possible to help whomever we can, and for that you have my deepest gratitude. We will always be what we always were meant to be, humanity's weapon against the darkness. Are you ready, my sons? We chorused our assent. In truth, I think any one of us was more ready to face whatever we were about to walk into than we had been the forest. Battle, pain, and death. These were things for which we were prepared centuries ago by our reckoning, and millennia ago by as far as the galaxy concerned. The lion stepped forward, and we moved with him, our weapons at the ready. Between one step and the next, I noticed the trees around us suddenly look less like trees, and when my foot came down for the step after that, my boot did not land with a soft thud in the earth and leaf litter of the forest floor, with the hard clank of ceramite to stone. The tree trunks had turned into columns, tall and bare and evenly spaced. And we were in an atrium, and we were surrounded. They came at us in a bawling rush, and our sudden arrival had caught them unaware. There was little hesitation on their part to show it. I put a bolt shell through the skull of one before I had even registered how misshapen that skull was, and it was only as a second creature rushed me with a weapon that was less an axe and more a massive, long-handled cleaver that my brain was able to name it. A beastman. The semi-stable form of abhuman considered barely better than true mutants on most Imperial worlds. I'd met several beastmen in my travels through the galaxy, of varying character. A few were indentured slaves, miserable with their lot, and with the status as sinful degenerates having been drilled into their heads since birth. The rest were renegades and outlaws, tired of the abuse heaped upon them, and fighting back by taking what they could. I had more in common with the ground with those than I might have expected. Although one named Rand tried to kill me when he realized I was a space marine, He quickly learned his error, although, given I killed him in turn, I cannot say that he remembered it for very long. The way the Imperium treated such creatures created fertile soil in which discontent and anger could take root. And now we reaped the fruits of it. I heard braid prayers to the foul gods of chaos to give the Horde strength enough to bring down the hated tools of the Emperor as they saw us. Whether or not those deities answered their entreaties made to them, the beastmen were certainly lacked neither in strength nor savagery as they came for us. I lashed out with my chain sword and severed one arm of the creature attacking me with its enormous cleaver. But although it screamed in pain, it neither fell to the ground nor backed off, instead switching to a clumsy single-handed grip and striking at me nonetheless. I was so surprised by its resilience that I failed to either evade or parry the blow, and the notched edge of the weapon struck me on the breastplate. The creature's strength was considerable, and that combined with the weapon's weight was enough to knock me on the ground. My armor saved me from bisection with merely a new bright line on the black paint to show for it. And I fired from my sitting position and blew a hole through my attacker's chest and spine. Not even its robust physiology could stand up to that. And it collapsed with a truncated scream. I shot the next one down as well, then hurriedly regained my feet before any of my brothers could trip over me. Ugh. Ugly brutes, are they not? Kai said jovially, flourishing his power sword. It looked like a showman's move, designed merely to impress with wrist technique. And when he returned to his guarded position, the beastman that had drawn back its arm to smite him with its spikes it carried was falling to the ground, its head now some distance away, and its neck already cauterized by the blade's power field. Kai stepped forward and swept his weapon through the air in a simple, double-handed figure of 8, after which 2 more of our attackers were quite literally falling apart. Typical officer, Mariant commented from the other side. His bolter barked, and his chest and the chest of another beastman exploded. We could all do that if we had his weapon. I was inclined to agree. My chainsword would tear through flesh and bone and light armor well enough, though it was an ugly process. But then power blades were far more expensive and difficult to build and maintain, which is why a knight commander like Kai would have one. Simple and robust construction of a chainsword was more suitable for the line trooper I had been, or it seemed for an abhuman. A new foe threw itself at me, its lolling tongue hanging out of slavering jaws, and it swung its own roaring Promethean-powered blade of monomolecular edged teeth at my face. I battered the blow aside with my forearm. Ceramite could deflect such weapons with little more than a scratch, and stabbed, driving my own weapon into the creature's chest. Blood gouted as the chainsword plunged inwards, accompanied by the drill-like whine of its teeth slicing through ribs. The stench of friction-heated bone reached my nostrils, even through my helmet's filters. The beastman spasmed in agony. I felt my blade judder as it shredded at the enemy's heart, and I wrenched it out and away with such force that I turned the beastman's body into a bloody missile which collided with another of its kin lining up an autogun shot. Even against such devastation as it were wreaking upon them, I think the beastmen might have stood their ground, for they were driven by both hatred and fierce determination, the very qualities that made them such effective troops in the Imperium's armies for those few commanders willing to use them. We were towering foes and mighty ones, but they knew that we could be hurt and killed, and even if they died while attempting such a goal, their death might buy a critical opening for the one behind them to exploit. However, we were not just 20 Space Marines, or even just 20 veterans of the Great Crusade. We were led by a Primarch, our Primarch, and he was always death incarnate. The creatures that attacked us were thrown back and slain. They never got near the lion, at least not through their own volition. There was no exchange of blows, no combat between foes, unevenly matched though there might be. The lion simply killed anything in his way. flowing through the atrium as easily and swiftly as the wind. Beastmen were carved apart or run through before they even registered that the huge, terrifying leader of the attackers was coming for them next. Against such an enemy, even their resolve crumbled. And by the chrono in the helmet, it took 16 seconds of visceral combat before the beastman panicked and began to flee from the lion and the trail of corpses he was leaving. The effect on the rest was almost instantaneous, like a herd of prey animals taking to flight when one scents a predator, and the creatures that were piling forwards in an attempt to reach us 1 second were turning tail the next. I put a bolt between the shoulder blades of one more to encourage its fellows on their way more than anything else. There are more coming, the lion announced over Vox, his helmet turning this way and that as his preternatural sharp senses gave him information which even we did not have. We must not get pinned down by weight of numbers. We must find Seraphax. Allow me to help you with that, father, said a voice from the far end of the atrium. Someone stepped out of a shimmer in the air. It had to be Seraphax, the sorcerer. I had no memory of him from either the Great Crusade or our exile in Caliban. But although some parts of his armour had obviously been replaced over the years, it was still painted and marked in the manner of the First Legion. He wore a surplice over it, much as Lahok and some of my other brothers did. But instead of a simple cream with our icon and winged sword, Seraphax's was marked with fantastically complex runes and glyphs that hurt the eyes to look at. The actual armour plate was not greatly deformed or disfigured, certainly not in the manner I had seen with other worshippers of chaos, whose ceramite had often flowed into spikes, horns, and or leering mouths, but his face, half of his head was on fire, burning with bright yellow flames that appeared to neither cause him pain nor consume his body. Or at least that was what I surmised, since they were so ferocious that I could not make out what lay beneath them. No wonder Baelor had been so unconcerned by the nature of the sorcerer's followers. If this was the warrior to whom he had given his allegiance, Seraphax clearly saw no more new words after he announced his arrival. He raised his staff, and a coruscating bolt of sorcerer's energy erupted from it and streaked towards the lion. It dissipated a foot from the grilled visor of the Primarch's helmet. The lion raised armor luminous and fired back in his own fashion, but the superheated plasma simply splashed off whatever arcane protection Seraphax had conjured for himself. Seraphax tried his own attack again, but it once more faded away just before it struck home. The visible half of the sorcerer's face was shocked. Shock which shifted to alarm as the lion leapt forward, intent on ending him with fealty, since his plasma weapon was apparently incapable of doing so. Seraphax turned and fled through a door with the lion in hot pursuit. We followed, but neither our reflexes nor our speed were equal of our Gene-Sire, and so by the time he had exited the atrium, none of us were directly on his heels. The iridescently green-armoured warriors emerged from similar shimmers in the air as the one that had just disgorged their master, arrayed around us in a loose semicircle, and between us and the door through which the lion had just gone. These were no abhumans. These were Astartes, like us. Although the similarity ended there, while Seraphax's armour in and of itself gave little hint as to the foul powers he served, the allegiance of these warriors was immediately obvious. Some bore horned helmets, the protuberances appearing to be bony eruptions from their own skulls that had pierced the ceramite from within, rather than external decorations. I saw that one clutched his bolt gun with a normal right hand on the stock, but supported the barrel with fleshy tendrils emerging from his vambrace. Another had a scaled tail that ended in a spiked mace of bone, while the third roared at us with a fanged mouth that had replaced the imperial eagle on his chest. I did not need to see the massive shape of Markog to know that this was the Dolorous Guard. Altered though their forms were, the colour and nature of their armour enough to his that the resemblance was obvious. Both they and we had half a second to take in the enemy arrayed against us, and then the shooting started. This was an exponentially more intense, more brutal affair than the fight in which we had just been engaged. Bolt shells were never designed to pierce ceramite, because back when the weaponry was first conceived, there was no notion that humanity's enemies would ever be wearing such armour. In the millennia since, the Imperium had been hamstrung by its own refusal to embrace progress. The renegades such as we now faced, or indeed such as ourselves, were largely limited by what weapons they could scavenge from their former masters. Much like my chainsword, bolt weaponry was more than sufficient for most purposes to which it was ever going to be put, but lacked the specialism to be similarly effective against the armour of the one wielding it. 2 bolt shells struck my chest in that same instant, and I fired my own weapon. I was knocked backward, but the ceramite held, although the sigil of my legion took more damage. I put a bolt shell into one enemy's knee, staggering him. 3 more shots ricocheted off my right pauldron, and one took a second deflection off the side of my helmet, staggering me sideways. There was no cover to take here. This was point-blank engagement at one end of the atrium, decided by the volume of fire and sheer luck. I emptied my bolt pistol's clip almost blindly, hoping to strike a weak point such as a faceplate, but unable to aim properly due to the shots I was taking myself. Some of my brothers did not have such problems. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the incandescent smear of the Red Whisper's plasma gun discharging, and striking a target well-armoured central mass was no concern for a weapon of that power. One of our enemies screamed and died as the ravening energy tore through him, and another was vaporized by Kuziel's melter gun. I saw one of the Dolorous Guard go down, I thought from one of my bolt shells, but then something struck me in the side with the force of a mag train. Our enemies had heavier weapons too, and readouts on my helmet flashed red, flickering as I was knocked onto the floor. Something big, a heavy bolter, or perhaps an autocannon, had hit me and splintered my ceramite, like my weight had done to the tiles on which I had just landed. Power vanished for a moment, leaving my limbs unnaturally heavy and my vision dark, then sputtered back as a loose connection made contact once more. I hoped someone was going to deal with that weapon. If it struck me in the same place again, I was unlikely to survive. As it turns out, I had other things to worry about. "Zabriel," roared a voice, but that was not one of my brothers coming to my aid. I stumbled to my feet to see the massive form of Markog bearing down upon me. His enormous, pale-bladed axe clutched in both hands. "I owe you a strike," the commander of the Dolorous Guard bellowed, almost jovially. Boars flew at him from the left, his power fist drawn back to lay the traitor out, but Markog was too quick. The haft of his axe lashed out and caught Boars on his helmet's faceplate, spinning him to the ground, and by the time my brother had regained his feet, one of Markog's warriors had fallen on him from behind with a power knife, and Boars was fully occupied trying to save his own life. I dropped my empty bolt pistol and drew my spare, hoping to at least injure him before he closed with me, but the giant's size belied his speed, and the butt of that damned axe knocked the weapon from my hand before I could fire. I swung my chainsword, but Markog was wearing his helmet this time, and in truth, I do not know what I hoped to achieve, given that the last time I decapitated him, he simply picked his head back up again. The teeth threw up sparks as they grated against his armour, but in a moment he had brought the haft of his axe down on my arm with such force I felt both ceramite and the bone within snap, and the chainsword dropped from my grasp. His next blow was a punch that hammered into the cracked armour over my ribs, and even my enhanced pain threshold was momentarily overloaded. I stumbled backwards and fell. He raised his axe high. "I owe you a strike," he growled, strange harmonics emanating from behind his helmet's faceplate, and swung. Pale-bladed axe descended like death, too fast for me to roll clumsily aside from. The edge stopped a mere finger's breadth from my helmet seal. But this was not an act of mercy or mockery on my enemy's behalf. Instead, his weapon was thrown up and back again by the blade of the tyrannic greatsword which had intercepted the swing, just below the axe's head. "I owe him a strike," Markog roared at my saviour. "This is a matter of honour." "You think we conquered the galaxy with honour? You children are all the same," Gallad snorted and attacked. The Cenobite Cataphractes armour made him a match for Markog inside, and apparently in strength as well. Their weapons clashed together, but the commander of the Dolorous Guard was unable to throw Gallad away from him, despite his straining. Instead, each warrior took a step back, and then swung again. Markog was blisteringly quick, and his axe spun through the air faster than should have been possible. But Gallad was his equal, calmly parrying and deflecting, as though he knew what strikes were coming, even before Markog did. The destroyers fought and bled in the crucible of brutal, close-in killing, with no quarter asked nor given. So I was no stranger to the cut and thrust of combat. Seeing Gallad at work, however, took me back to when I was a raw recruit, watching my instructors handle their weapons with what seemed at the time to be godlike speed and skill. But I had no time to gape. I lunged for my dropped pistol, raised it, and opened fire. The bolt detonated on Markog's leg, arm, and pauldron. And although his armour repaired the damage within moments of it occurring, the impacts knocked him off balance and caused the next strike to miss his mark completely and bite deep into the floor. "Cowards," Markog roared, just deflecting Gallad's next blow. "Fight me!" He cut off as Launceal appeared on his right and drove his power sword through Markog's armour and right through his ribcage. The giant stiffened in what could have well been agony, and which might, given what I suspected of his allegiances, possibly be ecstasy. But Gallad was in no mood to leave him to the experience uninterrupted. The tyrannic greatsword lashed out again, and Markog's left arm was cut clean from his body, his pauldron severed in two by the disrupting power field and razor-sharp edge of the ancient weapon. Launceal withdrew his sword and stepped back from Markog's clumsy, unbalanced counterstrike. The giant was roaring wordlessly now, his pain and rage too overwhelming for anything else. I rose to my feet and fired another bolt, shattering his helmet, just as Gallad swung again and took his right arm off as well. That changed things. The haft of his axe was still clutched in his hand, but Markog's unnatural resilience vanished now that the hand was no longer attached to his body. He staggered, and blood began to drip thickly from his shoulders. It started to clot almost immediately, since he was still a space marine with our enhanced biology and healing abilities. But it appeared that it was the weapon itself which granted him the ability to survive decapitation rather than any innate ability of his own. "No," he bellowed thickly, and took a step towards Gallad. Gallad was clearly taking no chances. He crouched and swung his blade horizontally, and severed both legs with one blow. Markog clattered to the floor with a howl. Gallad rose back to his full height, reversed the grip on his sword, and plunged it into Markog's chest. The blade was wide enough to strike both hearts simultaneously, and I had no doubt that Gallad had directed it with the requisite skill for it to do just that. Markog spasmed as much as he could without any attached limbs, but Gallad did not linger over his kill. He wrenched his sword out with one hand and raised the other, firing his plasma caster. I followed the direction of his shot, my bolt pistol raised and ready, but I found myself with a dearth of targets. The Dolorous Guard had been overcome. Ferocious though Seraphax's bodyguard were, they had proved no match for the First Legion, even such remnants of it as us. Our victory had not come without cost. My own broken arm was but one of several immediately noticeable injuries on my brothers. Asbiel, the apothecary, was tending to the fallen Lemur, who had clearly been attacked with the fury common to assault squads, and had suffered the consequences, which were equally common. However, the enemy's elite warriors were dead, and there appeared to be no malign magic threatening to reanimate them. I walked to Markog's helmet and stamped on it. It shattered and fell away to reveal his face, twisted in pain and hatred. He reached up towards me with his unnaturally long tongue and cackled at me. "I will taste your flesh yet, twice cursed traitor, and you will..." I emptied the rest of my pistol's clip into his head, without waiting for him to finish, until I had blown a hole into the floor beneath, and the legs of my armor were speckled with the fine particles of his skin, bone, and brain. Perhaps I should have been more careful about allowing his obviously tainted flesh to touch my armor in such a manner. But I had been a destroyer. I was a destroyer, and our enemy's annihilation always took priority over our own safety. "Are they all accounted for?" Gawain asked. Blade of his power axe smoking as the blood coating it was vaporized. None disappeared in the same manner as they arrived. My brothers confirmed it in the negative, but a chill had taken hold of my heart as I scanned our surrounding. Our force was here, in various states of health and injury, and the green-armoured bodies of our foes, but there was one notable absence. "Baelor," I said, ejecting the magazine of my pistol and fumbling another into place with the hand of my broken arm. "Our last brother, and Seraphax's lieutenant. He is not amongst their dead, which means he has somewhere more important to be than here, trying to stop us," Beverdan agreed. I wondered if he regretted not striking Baelor down atop his mountain. I certainly did, but I held my tongue. There was little to be gained by confronting him about it, nor indeed Gallad and Launceal, who had let Baelor leave their system freely, but who had undoubtedly just saved my life. "The lion," Gawain said. "The lion," I agreed. My brothers and I moved as one towards where our gene-sire had disappeared, in pursuit of the Lord Sorcerer and the 10,000 eyes. End. Chapter 30. That was a really cool scene. I have to say, I really loved the references to Gawain and the Green Knight from Arthurian legend, and the Black Knight from Monty Python. Markog is just a creep who definitely deserved everything he got. Yes. Yes. Where's my cat gone? I'm gonna have a sip before I do the next chapter. How many chapters do we have left? 31, 32, 33. Epilogue. These look like chunky chapters, though. Do I want to finish it tonight? I do have work in the morning. I feel like if I were to finish this tonight... I feel like if I were gonna finish this tonight, it would go on just as long as I've gone. And it's 11:30. Bleh. 11:30 here. So I think for tonight, 3 chapters left. Yeah, I'm thinking one more stream. I thought this was going to be the last one, but these chapters have been very engrossing, and I've had distracting cats today. 3 chapters left. I think, yeah, we'll save it for one. We'll do one last session next week, and we will definitely finish it next week. I'm genuinely loving this book. It's such a cool story. Like, it's such a cool story. I love the characterization of the first Legionaries. Like, they're just really cool. They're so different to all the other Space Marines. I really like it. Hmm. Thank you, Aeon. I'm glad that you're enjoying. I'm glad that you enjoy it. I'm glad that you enjoy it. I'm gonna keep doing stuff. I should probably pick someone to raid. No one's really doing anything quite like what we've done though in my list. So I will happily take a suggestion. Otherwise, I'm probably just gonna raid someone I don't think I've raided before. At least not for a while. Maybe there's this V2, another VTuber doing. You have a suggestion, Callus? Let's go. Let's go. Show me what you got. Show me what you got. Who's peculiar little rabbit? Thank you again, Aeon, for coming and hanging out. They doing a drawing stream. They look like they've been going for a while though, so they might not be on for too long. Who's your suggestion, Callus? Oh, you sent me a link on Discord. Okay, I haven't. I'm on streamer mode. Oh, I don't know this person. Oh, they playing a cute game. I really need to finish Cult of the Lamb. I should do that at some point. Lol. Yeah, no. I'll rate them. Cult of the Lamb's a comfy, cozy game. Yeah. Yeah. They got cute design. Let's go. Let's go. Tomorrow we're going to be continuing our Elden Ring first playthrough. On Wednesday we're going to be playing Bolt Gun. So I've not played Bolt Gun or a Doom kind of game for ages. Yeah. Yeah. And then on Thursday we're gonna be playing Darktide with chat. And then on Friday we're gonna be building some Warhammer. And then we're gonna. Oh yeah, Elden Ring after two weeks. Yeah, I'm definitely not gonna die a lot all the time. I'm gonna get some monster on the way home tomorrow. Has it been 2 weeks? It has been quite a few weeks. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow, okay? Thank you again for choosing to spend your time with me. I love you all. See you tomorrow, okay? Mwah.